Is the video starting? So I can stop doing this? Great. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K. And if that stupid intro wasn't anything to go by, or, the video title itself, it's time for another top 13 list, and another one that I kind of started doing last year when I did my Food Wars characters list. I am going to be doing another character list of one of the most mocked, constantly mocked animes I've ever watched, and mostly because of the power of friendship beating great evil, a lot of fan service, but overall, it's still an anime I really love. I will love it to the day I die. It is the one and only Fairy Tail. And good help us if they ever bring this back the same way they did with Bleach and Shaman King. Don't do it. So, not that many rules for this top 13. Basically, it's just my opinions on 13 characters. And I am excluding Natsu from this list because he is the main character, and I kind of have a rule now that when I do these anime character lists is that the main character is off the list because, it's the main character. More than likely, he's going to be at the top of the list more often than not. I will be doing a separate list for the anime heroes who are also the main characters. I'm wondering if I should do a list like this for all the Yu-Gi-Oh series. I do my favorite duels from each season, so that's too complicated. So sit back, relax, and Fairy Tail doesn't really have a slogan, do they? Anyway, this is Gamer K's top 13 Fairy Tail characters. And why top 13? Because here at the Game Hub, only the odd can be number one. Kind of funny, I have a pinup calendar when the first character on this list is technically a pinup. Okay, I'm going to be honest, this one was a little bit weird for me, but not really weird. It's Lizana Strauss. And again, this is my list. I can put whatever characters I like on here, and there were a couple things that Lizana did that really stood out a majority of the time. One thing Fairy Tail does very well, and what a lot of anime nowadays tend to do, is not make their side characters feel like they get the short end of the stick when it comes to the story and the fights. Because Lizana has been in a couple of the fights, mostly during the Neo Oration Seis bit, like beforehand. Anyway, she's one of the original characters from the guild when they were kids, and then she dies in the backstory and stuff that we get later on, and god damn it, I was not expecting what they did in order to bring her back. Turns out she didn't die. Somehow, in a parallel world, she got transported there because herself in that parallel universe died and something was correcting it. I don't know. But overall, she returns, and it's very evident that she has had a crush on Natsu ever since they were little kids. I kind of wish they went a little bit more with that instead of doing the whole Natsu-Lucy thing. I hope that's not canon. All honesty, I get sick and tired of those constant cliches, even though a good majority of the time they do kind of work. But Lizana is a great character. I love her design. I love the fact that she kind of does her best to keep both of her siblings, Elfman and Mira Jane, kind of balanced a little bit. Like, we got the big brooding type, and we got the gentle sweetheart. Sadly, when I get to one of these characters, it kind of switched over time. But another thing I love about her is her magic. Just like her sibling, she does a kind of morphing, an animal soul or a morphing ability. And whereas Elfman goes full animal, and Mira Jane's I'll get to when I get to her, Lizana does a human animal soul hybrid, and which results in, yeah. Obviously, you can tell why I like her. I mean, she's a great character. She's not the ditzy character that a lot of side character siblings do, especially when they have abilities like this. And some of them are not exactly what you would think when you hear them. But for the majority of them, yeah, get Monster Musume and Interspecies Reviewer on the phone. I'm pretty sure they're hiring right now. Please don't cancel this video. Alrighty, Roo. A side character who only appears in one arc prominently. And I'm not gonna lie, he's pretty badass. Named after the Roman god of wine and revelry, we've got Bacchus from Quadro Cerberus. Okay, yes, technically now they're Quattro Puppy. Dang it, Elfman. But Bacchus was a fun character to begin with. I mean, like, he's only shows up in the tournament arc. Yes, every anime has to have a tournament at one point or another. Except for, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Bacchus from design, I love it. I love his purple armor that's only on his shoulders and his whole torso is exposed, but he's a very competent fighter and able to literally hold his drink against Kana, another favorite character of mine, but sadly she slid under my top 13 list because even though she is utilized a majority, unlike other characters, I just like these characters a lot better. So my favorite card girl slightly got under the list. I'm still on Bacchus, right? Making sure talking about him isn't making me forget. One thing I love about Bacchus' design is, again, it's the purple armor shoulder pads, and plus his whole technique of fighting. It's Drunken Hawk style, which surprisingly is a good, accurate martial art where alcohol is used for erratic movements. And during his fight with Elfman, I was pretty sure it was going to be pretty one-sided. And the fact in the fight that he didn't even touch his gourd, I'm not going to lie, that was freaking badass. I love the character design. I like one-off characters once in a while. And this particular gave us a great character, great personality. And again, even though he's not fully in the show that much, he still gets on the list as a good mention. And now let's continue before I start drinking to remember who else is on this list. I really tried. I really tried to not have her on the list. But I love her. I really love her. Even though she's basic fan service half the time. And she's slightly ditzy numerous times. Lucy Heartfilia, guys. One of the literal main characters of the show and the entire focal point of how the story begins, which I kind of love. Technically a normal person out of everyone else in Fairy Tale. It's almost like saying you're the least craziest person in Arkham Asylum with all the inmates. Actually, that's a general description of Fairy Tale, basically a bunch of nutcases. But with backstories like what they got, can you blame them? Anyway, going on, the character Lucy is a fantastic character. I really love that she's not the generic damsel in distress character that always happens in anime. I mean, yeah, obviously, she learns how to fight with her whip and using her celestial keys. But the one thing I love about her is her backstory of her father being this aggressive jackass, which, again, is always a great selling point for an anime character. But the fact that she grew up with a lot of her celestial spirits, and every time she meets new ones, she sees them as actual people and not as tools or weapons or special beings that will do her bidding. She actually treats them with respect, and I can't fault her a lot for that. I mean, her personality it never wavers throughout the series. She sometimes feels like a burden. She feels kind of not as strong as the other wizards, and that's why she works to improve that throughout the arcs. And it's done pretty well, and every time she's up against an enemy, it works. I love her personality. I love her story. I love how she was integrated into this literal asylum full of misfits, but she feels at home. And I do love that about Lucy's character. Even the characters who are, again, very off-putting in the guild, she still befriends them. She still finds comfort with all these weirdos. And that's something I really love about her character. The only reason she's a little bit on the bottom of the list is because, again, I don't like the trope of the girl who's saved by this person who is a member of the people that she's trying to join. I don't like that trope a lot. And I gotta say, again, Lucy is the poster child for that thing. Also a poster child for basically being another pinup character that's cosplay ideas. Seriously, I'm not faulting Lucy at all. I'm just saying a lot of my friends cosplay as her, and I can obviously tell. I'm really surprised there's not a bingo sheet going around of how many characters or different outfits that she's worn throughout the show. No, I'm not going to do a key joke to end this segment. Just go to the next one. We've got our first villain on the list. You know what the funny thing is? Fairy Tail doesn't have that many villains in this. I mean, a majority of them are either other guilds or people who get redeemed afterwards. There's not really a lot of villains that stay villains, except for the members of the Spriggan 12, Tartaros. Speaking of which, I'm talking about the boss of this whole evil guild, who is named after two Greek myths technically on this list already. I'm feeling honored. We've got the brains of the Tartaros Guild, Mard Gear. If smugness and overconfidence were developed in a demon, it's this guy. Even though they're mentioned pretty early on in the show that Tartaros is one of the three dark guilds that are basically working together, technically, we don't see them until the end of the series, or at least the arc right before the final season. And I love this dude's design. It's simple. Yeah, they're demons, but they also have human forms. And I'm not going to lie, I like his human form a little bit better than his demon form. Okay, here's his real form. Pretty freaking badass. Here's his human form fully. I don't know why, I just like this form better. Mostly because most of the time of the arc, he's sitting in his chair with his hand on his arm, just kind of being smug and overconfident about everything. Also the fact that he's got plant abilities, plant magic, and it kind of works. Wait a minute. Smugness, don't see him until near the end. Flower power. Why does that sound familiar? Oh yeah, him. Yeah. Okay, the joke's over. Margear may not have been a main threat throughout a majority of the show. I mean, there have been a lot of villains who are a little bit better, but for me, he's pretty. I just love his smugness. I'm gonna be honest. Talking down humanity, organizing every single member of Tartaros in order to execute their plan. And then the final fight he gets. This guy fights 4 people. He fights Sting, Rogue, then he fights Gray and Natsu. Then he goes into his ultimate form. Then he beats the shit out of all 4 of them. Until again, Power Friendship perseveres. Or at least not Power Friendship. More like Gray having his father's Ice Demon Slayer magic. And screws him. And then continuing his overconfidence and his, acting like he's better than the other characters, Zareth comes out of the woodwork and saying that he no longer requires his assistance, even though all the evil of this world are based on technically doing Zareth's bidding, especially Tartaros. Seals him away back into his book and destroys the fucking book, killing the dude. So calling him pathetic, saying that he's no longer necessary, imprisoning him in his own book, and then destroying the book, essentially killing him. That is the quintessential thing of locking a guy in a car and shoving that car into the water. Margear may have not gotten a lot of screen time in the series. He may not have been like as grand as a villain like All for One, Shigaraki, or Father from Full Metal Alchemist, or or Doflamingo. He may not have been as good as those villains, but for the little bit of time he got, he damn well wasn't a pushover, and he just pushed the way forward for other great villains to come out of the last season. Except for the first half, which was total BS. Next. Like I said, a lot of the characters in Fairy Tail don't necessarily die. A lot of them gain redemption. And if there's one character who got redemption in spades and then proceeded to help others get redemption, was a former puppet. Yeah, he was literally a puppet for a majority of his arc, his backstory, and he wanted to make amends. Jalal Fernandez, who I love. I love his character. I love his schemes every time when he did. I mean, third? Yeah, third. It was the third story. It was the third arc that he became the main threat. And boy, does this guy get a butt whooping during his first time out. Continuing to create the giant tower in which he was enslaved in and then was forced to work in it, along with a majority of the other characters. One main character, her friends, and future villains. This whole tower created a bunch of great characters. I'm just gonna say. But Jalal becoming a freaking villain, I mean, I did not sense that twist coming right when I first watched it, but I did enjoy it. And then the whole finale of the tower, and Natsu beating the ever living shit out of him. It was freaking fantastic. I'm not gonna lie. And then two arcs after that, and then time skip. Him and a couple members of the Hades Guild, and then the members of the Neo-Rationales join up with him in order to create Crime Sorcière, a guild responsible for hunting down dark guilds and preventing all the crimes thereof. Another thing that I kind of like is that for a good while his eyes were bandaged up, so I guess he couldn't see. And I do like his comet magic. I am not gonna lie. It's comet magic? It's what I'm calling it, but because it sounds cool. I just love his design. I love his redemption in a majority of the show. I really love his whole thing with Urza, that they liked each other since they were kids. So there was that kind of friendship, romance kind of thing back then. And it continued until the end. I'm not sure if it... The thing with Fairy Tail is the relationships don't really go anywhere. Except for my favorite, which I'm gonna be honest, I didn't like in the beginning, but then I started to love. So yeah, the relationships don't really go that much, which sucks. But it is one I do love. And Jalal being a great threat and then a great side character that wants to... He's basically Magic Batman, kind of. Wanting to right the wrongs he did. And gathering others who did kind of the same thing in order to build up his own guild, which I do love. I love the whole thing about him. And also, I just love the design of their logo. It's just so freaking sweet. Alright, next up. Well, I mentioned my pinup calendar before. Now we're talking about a literal pinup. Mira Jane Strauss. One of the best designed characters in the whole freaking show. I mean, technically we're introduced to her right in a magazine during the first couple episodes, saying that she does a lot of modeling. So even though there is magic in this world and these guilds exist, there are actual, jobs that actually happen. And this character being a model, I kind of saw out of nowhere. When we first meet her, I kind of thought she was going to be, she's serving, okay, she's not a bar, she's not a server at a bar or anything, but she basically helps out with the people at the guild, bringing them food, bringing them the drinks. Okay, she's technically the barmaid there. And I thought she was this complete ditz. You can see why I think that, right? She's constantly ditzy. She's constantly acting like the sweetheart. But in a couple flashback episodes before the big reveal, she looked like a punk. Like, she was aggressive. She was picking fights. And then now when it goes back to main day, she's this sweetheart who's always smiling. What happened? What happened in your life that made you change? That made you change so much? Oh, right. I mean, if my brother went full berserker behemoth monster form and all that, and lost and went out of control and claw swiped your younger sister and you thought she's been dead, yeah, I would change too. Which is ironic because their brother Elfman, who again was responsible, he was always as the gentle soul, the nice guy. And then afterwards he changed into this buff, manly man guy. And again, I'm not going to lie, I do love both of them, but Mira Jane gets on this list because of how completely 180 I thought I went on her character. Because it's not until Lox is trying to take over the town arc, I don't remember what it's called, I'm just calling it that. The Thunder Legion arc, I'm just calling it that. Her fighting Klaus, I think his name is, or Seagrain, I forget. Oh yeah. Seeing this bubbly, smiling cutie being able to transform into this definitely threw me for a loop when I first watched it. I mean, brother's got full beast souls, little sister's got pin-up animal souls, and looking like fluffle cards. And then we get this one who becomes demons. Yeah, absolutely. I got nothing else to say. Mira Jane is fantastic. Great character development. Great backstory that really explains a lot. And also, yeah, she's a looker. I mean, anyone who says that they don't like Mira Jane at all is a goddamn liar. I mean, how can you not? Actually, you know what? You went, didn't you? Yeah, fair enough. All right, next up. One thing I love about the fairy tale characters is how somewhat simple the characters seem to be at first. But then after a certain point in the story, they do a whole backstory, and you really got to think about what the next characters are going to be. A character who I thought was going to be one of the one-off characters who was going through kind of an existential crisis and was going to leave eventually once his backstory was got out. I loved Loki right at the beginning. I loved his personality. I loved his design. And the fact that he constantly he was hitting on girls a lot really made me somewhat like him, somewhat hate him, because I thought he was going to be that kind of playboy kind of character. I mean, come on. Have we ever gotten a anime version of Bruce Wayne before? Have we ever? Oh my God, I'm just giving people a lot of ideas, aren't I? But then, and one of the biggest reveals that I love in this show, it is revealed that he is in fact the Zodiac of the Lion, Leo. Leo? Yeah, Leo. And his backstory is kind of heartbreaking and commendable. I'm not going to lie. Working for an old mage, a mage who was from the Blue Pegasus Guild, who used her spirits more like playthings and disrespect, using cute Aries. I mean, look at this girl. Look at her. She is so sweet and innocent and so soft. And she uses her to basically kind of be used as a meat shield against the guys in her guild who want to hit on her. And then, after kind of abusing Ares, Loki steps in and has had enough. Because I think the mage's name was Karen, which kind of is self-explanatory. Considering she wasn't strong enough to access two Zodiac gates at once, Loki decides to. I mean, one of the things they tell us in the world is that a Zodiac spirit has a set amount of time that they can stay in the world before they have to go back to their spirit, to the celestial spirit realm. Which I get, it makes sense. So he stays in there. She stays on Earth for days, losing his strength, and also Karen cannot summon Ares or any other spirits in order to abuse them because he's had enough. Being the leader of the Zodiac, I love that he took this initiative, and I do love that he held out for as long as he did. And then she decided to go on a job without her spirits, and she ends up dying. So the contract with with her spirits goes away, but he still feels guilty that he didn't cause her death, he just kind of set things in motion. And then, after holding out for so long, his time is almost up and he's going to fade away because he hasn't been back there in, I can't remember how long it said, and Lucy figuring it out and wanting to help him. It's a great scene between the two characters. And especially when the big mustache Celestial King comes into play, where Lucy basically pleads to let him to absolve Loki of all of his guilt, and he only did it to protect Ares, and he should be given another chance. And then, long story short, too late, I know, he forms a contract with Lucy, and every time he's called out, he still hits on her. Not in the perverted way that a bunch of other characters do that on the female lead, which I love. He's a gentleman above it all, and I like how him and Ares, there's that little thing of the lion and the lamb, and I don't know. I love his backstory. I love his design. I love his personality. I love his overall fighting prowess, especially with his eclipse form later in the show. Dear Lord, this thing is awesome. But as much as I love that, I love the original better. 100% a gentleman, the king of the beasts, the spirit of the lion. Leo makes all fans roar for him. Okay, roar for him. I'm done with these cheesy jokes. Can we please do a video without a cheesy joke? I did not write, please. Way there. Next up, I'm going to need a drink for this. Seriously, who is it again? Oh, correct. So I've talked about a lot of the female characters that I really like in this show. And now it's time for my best girl of fairy tale. Oh, everyone loves her. She's a great character. she's in the main guild of the heroes. She's fought a lot of battles, lost a couple battles. She is absolutely not Ursa Scarlet whatsoever. She's smart. She's a bookworm. She's cute with blonde. Sorry, not blonde. I misstepped. Blue hair. She is petite, and I love her so much. I'm talking about Levy McGarden. Oh, I just love her so much. She is my favorite girl. Hey, when I was a kid, I had a crush on Sailor Mercury. And ever since then, I always liked blue hair anime girls. I don't know why. I just like and also, plus blue was my favorite, is my favorite color. So she is such a great character. She is a side character that becomes more prominent as the show goes on. And it's perfect. I love that she's a smart character. And I love that she's, okay, sometimes a damsel, sometimes doesn't really get involved with a lot of the fighting, especially because of her magic, which is script magic, where she writes something, and whatever she writes, it will appear. Like, if she writes fire, it will be in fire, and it can be used as an attack, which, again, is pretty creative. And another thing I love about Levy is, other than her design, again, just how prominent she becomes as the series continues. She gets a lot more screen time. She gets a lot more roles. Well, not roles, but she gets a lot more prominence in the arcs. And it's something that isn't done a lot in a majority of anime. Well, back then, it didn't. And again, other than being cute, other than getting a lot more screen time, she's my favorite because, again, she forms a bond quickly with Lucy, and the two become best friends. And during specific moments in this show, she definitely showcases her worth. During the Eclipse Zodiac, the Celestial Spirit arc, that clock with the Annihilation 6, and especially during the Tartarus arc. I mean, I'll get to that when I get to it. I will. But overall, okay, I talked a lot about certain characters and their backstory, and I know it may get annoying for some people, but I just need to give some context of why I like the characters so much. So again, blue hair, cute, small, great development, gains a lot more recognition throughout the series, from a side character to a side main character, and again, one of my favorite girls in anime. And now we go to another favorite of mine who was a villain, but then became somewhat of an anti-hero, and his motif is something I just love. We're talking about a member of the Annihilation 6. No, it's not him. Really? I mean, there are so many characters from this group that I could pick. I could pick the Gorgeous Angel. I could pick the Speed Demon Racer. I could pick the Mysterious Midnight. But no, I'm going for the Poison Dragon Slayer, Cobra, a.k.a. Eric. God damn it, this guy is so freaking badass. I love him. The minute he was on screen, the minute the villains were announced, I didn't know what I was going to get from this guy, but I love him. Being a artificially created Dragon Slayer mage, and one of the children who was locked away in the tower as a slave. See, I mean, just watching him fight throughout his arcs is something really, really, really amazing. Having super hearing, he basically hears things higher than everyone else. So kind of like me, I guess. Which also gives him a vulnerability to sound attacks and loud noises, which I get. And a majority of the time, he's fighting for his one wish to hear the voice of his one true friend, which was Cubelios, who was a small snake from when he was a child that he kept at the prison and then became his winged serpent in order to fly because, I don't know, it's freaking badass. A poison dragon dude riding a winged serpent. I mean, come on. And then somehow Makarov changes Cubelios into the purple hair girl during the time skip. And the two meet on occasion. And dude, your snake girlfriend has the hots for you. I take it as a freaking win. But one thing I love is whenever he goes into poison mode, I mean, poison isn't used enough as an elemental attack or an ability that much in an anime. And when it's mixed with dragons, holy God, I love his skin, how it goes all purpley red, and the poison that he can shoot out of his mouth and coming out of his claws. It's so badass just watching this guy fight. And then after the time skip, his eye is shut. I can't remember why. It just gives him a little bit more personality. And I just love Cobra with as much as I can. I just wish in the final arc, we got these guys to do a little bit more. But beggars can't be choosers. He gets on this high on the list. His motif, his character development, his backstory, and like a lot of the other characters, I just love him personally. If I had to pick out one villain from that group that I love with a passion, for everything I mentioned, it's him 100%. And plus, he gives us good fight scenes, I'm not going to lie. It's late. I need to start going to sleep, but I've got a few more. Who's next? Great. I need a pick me up to stay awake, and this guy is basically the guy who can freeze me awake. Does that work as a segment? I don't care. We got Grateful Buster. Oh, I love this guy. Like right from the get-go, I knew he was going to be a likable character. I'm going to be honest. A guy that makes objects and body weapons out of ice, that's creative. Having him constantly strip because his master did that in the cold, I'm not going to lie, that took me for a loop. It was weird. I thought it was going to stay weird the entire backstory until the whole thing that happened. Yeah, for those of you who know, anytime, I'm wondering if I got the arm movements right, but oh boy, did I want to cry. And did I want to cry profusely about what happened. So, his father was a bastard who then later became an undead villain for the bad guys of the second to last season. His master defeated an ancient evil giant by sealing it away in ice using her own body. Of a technique he was going to use as a child, but she stopped him. And then he becomes the best friend of the main character and sometimes a rival who they butt heads against. Because, there's always that trope. Best friend, main character, they're friends, but they have to butt heads a good number of times. Which I like. And I like how a majority of the time when it comes to the fairy tale fights, it's not like My Hero Academia or One Piece, where the characters learn a new technique right on the spot. It's more like they kind of have to learn about their opponent's weaknesses and how their abilities work and use the techniques they have in order to kind of improvise right on the fly. Okay, yeah, that's kind of the same thing as learning a new technique or a new strategy right off the bat, but it's different in multiple ways. And Gray gives us quite a variety of those during his fights in certain aspects during the series. And then there's this one time when he dances like John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever. No, it was Pulp Fiction. Was it Pulp Fiction? Whichever movie he dances to disco, it just felt a little odd, a little bizarre. But you know what? Gray was a great character through and through, throughout the entire series. And then the last bit came out and he gets a beastly upgrade with his father's ice demon slayer magic, giving him a whole new arsenal to work with. And then having the nerve to make me cry right near the end of the series for doing the exact same thing his master died to prevent him from doing. See, once in a while, idiots make the same mistakes. Gray's a great character, great second main character, as opposed opposite of Natsu. Yeah, I'm not going to do that joke here. I'm joked out. Next up, 3, finally. And number 3 comes a character who... You know what? No matter what this guy voices, it's one of two things. Either he's a badass mentor who is super wise and super old, or he plays a father figure to a bunch of misfits. And it's always both of these at the same time, from Whitebeard in One Piece to frickin' Makarov from Fairy Tail. Okay, like a majority of characters, Makarov grew on me as the series went on. When I first saw him, I thought he was going to be this creepy old man. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Jiraiya and Master Roshi. I'm looking at both of you. Considering the fact he kind of weirded out over Mira a little bit, but not to overly extent, I was hoping he wasn't going to stay this creepy for long. I mean, when I first saw him, he was in this outfit, and I thought, okay, is this for real? This is their leader? This is their master? Like, I kind of thought he wasn't going to have any sort of big development or big powerhouse moments, because, I mean, it's an old man, you know, and he's small, and until the Phantom Lord arc came out, and yeah, Makarov, he went full fucking beast mode. And if this wasn't an anime where it was kind of not censored, but it didn't show that much supreme violence, Makarov would have been stomping on people, ripping them in half, and punching holes through their guts the size of a mountain. Yeah. Yeah, Makarov. Yeah, he's calm and collective and acts like aloof a majority of the times, but he considers everyone in Fairy Tail family, and much like Whitebeard thinks to his crew as family and his children, Makarov thinks the same, and God help you if you are anyone who disrespects or harms his children. God help you. No, you know what? Forget that. The man upstairs isn't going to help you. The man at the guy in the furnace help you. Oh boy. If you guys thought Whitebeard being pissed off at Teach was one thing, that's one thing. But the Makarov thing, every time someone hurts his children, is a whole other story. And the fact that he's the one who was able to get rid of Josei, the guy who was the guild leader of Phantom Lord, and did it in such an amazing, badass way without being physical. Holy shit. It's one of the reasons why it's that arc. I mean, it's technically the third main arc, second full arc that got me into fully loving the show, from all the characters and all their backstories a little bit. Because this is also the one where we are introduced to Lucy's backstory, how much of a dick her father is, and also to one of the best characters I've ever... Actually, no! Two! Both of them show up for the first time in this arc, and I will get to them when I get to them. But yeah, Makarov, you are freaking Parent of the Year in anime. Why is it the surrogate fathers and the adoptive fathers are always better than the main fathers in any anime? Majorly. I don't know why either, but dude, Makarov, great mentor, great father figure, and again, later in the series, it's great of how much he loves all the characters evenly. All the guild members evenly, and I love that. And he's not about going to war with his own blood in order to protect the secrets of Fairy Tail and to protect his kin, which I do love. Like grandfather, like grandson, the number 2 spot goes to a character who, like I said, I love redemption arcs. I really, really love them. I just don't like how, if they're fully forced. Whoops. And this character not only is a badass and one of the top members of Fairy Tail, and has been proven to beat the ever-living snot out of Natsu multiple times. He shows his prowess of being strategic. I'm talking about the grandson of the Guildmaster, Loxus Dryer, the Thunder Dragon Slayer. Again, another artificial one because his father is a bit of a bastard too. Loxus making his full debut in the 4th arc of the series. And being one of my favorites because we kind of get that kind of inter-guild fighting with him and his 3 cohorts, the Thunder Legion, which, again, I love the characters. Taking the town hostage with his lightning lacrima crystals, where if they're destroyed, zap goes the entire effing town. He does this to try to take over the guild a little bit. And then there's the whole fight in the cathedral, obviously in the cathedral, between him and Mystigan, a secret character who isn't really fully in the guild, but more if you watch the show. Then fights Gajeel and Natsu in a great triple dragon brawl. And then he casts the fairy law spell, which basically wipes out everyone you see as an enemy. However, it doesn't freaking work. And it's revealed that because of that, Loxus does see everyone in the guild as family still. Like, even though he's acting all tough and wants to take over and doesn't... And especially since his grandfather is almost about to keel over. Loxus is banished afterwards, and which makes sense because blood doesn't matter. As if you cause harm to us, you're out. And he takes it in stride. I'm not going to lie. Loxus takes his punishment like a man. And then during the festivals, after the whole fight thing, we get that classic sign, and then we get a flashback of Loxus with Makarov, and it definitely pulls at your heartstrings. And not until the Tenro Island arc, Loxus makes his return to fight Grimoire Hearts, another Dark Guild I forgot to mention, to fight an old master, and makes a badass re-entry and becomes family again, part of the guild again, until the time skip. And then we get the Grand Magic Games, where he goes up against his father and his evil guild, all while being tricked by the audience, being tricked during the fight. Loxus goes to effing town on his father and his top guild mates. It's a freaking... Are we sure he's not a fire dragon user? Because during this one's episode and during this scene, which I love to this day, Loxus brought all the smoke, taking out all 5 of them by himself. He has all the smoke for them. And Loxus just lays into his father being a deadbeat and saying that Fairy Tail is his family now, and anyone who messes with them gets no mercy. And then he finishes it with one last thunder punch, and it's just a great scene. Even though he started out as a jackass, like a majority of characters that happen in anime, Loxus fully redeems himself. And it's also not until the Tartaros arc and the final arc, which was the Spriggan 12 arc, that he gets 2 of his best fights during the anime. And they show him push to his limits. And he's always a badass, but at the same time, it gives him a little bit more than he can handle, so he can overcome it with the help of some of the other guildmates, which I do love. So Loxus, your second best Fairy Tail in my opinion, but there's one guy who takes a bite out of you and earns the number 1 spot. Okay, yeah, if Levy is best girl, you guys obviously know who my number 1 is going to be. It's Black Steel Gajiel, and I swear to God, this is how a redemption is done correctly. Being one of the members of Phantom Lord, the people who started the very first war with Fairy Tail, and kind of pinned Levy to a tree with metal, because he is an Iron Dragon Slayer. Yeah, not the best How I Met Your Mother story ever, but oh boy. Starting off as a bad guy, and his fights with Natsu are legendary. But then afterwards, he becomes a member of the guild, asked by Makarov personally to use his talents and to become a better character. And yeah, it takes a lot of me, but I like Gajiel right from the get-go as a villain, and then him becoming a redeemed character. There was a lot. And I do mean a lot. Wanting me to like him as a redemption. Because I honestly thought it was going to be kind of those cut and paste things where he completely changes but no, he still acts like a cold jackass to a good number of people, and I respect him for it. But he does get changed a good number of times throughout the series. He's not seen in a lot of the ones after his story is done. I mean, or at least after the whole Thunder Legion takeover thing. He's not seen for a while until the alternate dimension one where he finds his partner in crime, Panther Lily, which is literally another one of my favorite characters, but isn't on the list for reasons. And then it's the Tenro Island, where actually no, it's during the Thunder Legion part where Loxus is about to zap Levy and her two cohorts until Gajiel kind of intercepts it and becomes a lightning rod to take the damage. I do like that he felt obligated to help Levy out right then and there because of what he did to her in the beginning. And then when she's nominated to go into the S-Class wizard test, Gajiel demands that he help her out and toughens her up. And then the Grimoire Hearts start to invade Tenro Island during the exam. They have to fight certain monsters. She writes iron for him to eat so he can regain his strength. And there's a heart in the O for iron. Every little time they have scenes together, it's something small. It's them dancing together for a little bit, and then the wedding dress scene during the Grand Magic Games. The fact that pretty much all the girls have wedding dresses and all the guys are going with them, and Levy is between her two cohorts after the 7-year time skip, and then Gajiel's just laying on his side on the ground saying he's not partaking in all this, and Levy's sigh of either disapproval or kind of annoyance that he's not. And then during the eclipse, during her fight with Capricorn, Levy has to, in order to not lose the quiz game, she has to admit who does she like. And Capricorn saying like it's the worst secret in the guild, so anyone would know it. She answers it, but it goes mute, like she just mouths it, and because it's an animation, it's hard to read the lips. And then it's the Tartaros, where he's fighting the demon Torfusa, which is a fish-like humanoid demon who envelops the arena in corrupted dark water, which is kind of poisoning him a little bit. And during the fight, Levy dives in the water and gives him mouth to mouth, and so he can have air. Hey, you call it what you want, Levy. We all know what it really was. And as she's kind of like out of breath and kind of sinking, Torfusa charges right at her. And seeing that, Gajiel goes Shadow Steel mode, goes right to her, grabs her, and slams him in the head, going and yelling, "Don't you touch her." And it's one of my favorite scenes. It's one of my favorite scenes. But not as much as the final season, where they've been working together as officials because the guild disbanded. And fucking then, you fucking bastards. When he fought Bloodman, and he dies, he confesses. He confesses that he started thinking about a life for once, having someone to be with, having a family, and he confesses to Levy that he and then he's gone, and Levy's crying, and then episodes later, it shows that he was able to get warped before the death curse hit him, and he's still alive. You fucking assholes! You made me cry for my favorite character dying, confessing his love to my best girl, and you think I'm not gonna let that slide? And then in the end, it's announced that something's happening. So yeah, they're basically having a kid. I'm like, okay. Do not do a sequel of Fairy Tale, because my heart can't handle seeing them being a married couple. And this is one of the few couples that is legitimately fucking canon. And not just constant flirting back and forth, even though there wasn't that much flirting going on between these two. But, okay. Gajiel and Levy, my favorite girl from the series, even before they interacted with each other. And one of my favorite bad guys turned hero, redemption, become a couple. I hate that I love it so much, because it was so coincidental for me. I loved Levy right from the get-go. I loved Gajiel right from the get-go. And as the series went on, they got closer and closer and closer, and they officially became one of the best couples in Fairy Tale. And it's two of my favorite characters. My best girl and my number one Fairy Tale character. Black Steel Gajiel is my number one favorite, and for all these reasons. From his design, to his abilities, to his never-ending, snarky, jackassy personality, which I will always love. And add on that, the fact how he kind of changes as the series goes on a little bit. Like, he starts becoming a little bit softer around Levy and starts to actually care. And, oh, yeah, and also, can we just talk a second about his freaking punk rock guitar thing that happens in a couple episodes? He can't sing for shit, but goddamn it, is it funny. And, yep. Great character, great romance, great redemption, great character. Just freaking great. And that is my top 13 Fairy Tale characters, guys. I hope you guys enjoy the video. And I stayed up a little bit late in order to get this video out. So I hope you guys appreciate that. Like, comment, subscribe down below. And join me next week where we get evil once again. But this time we're going to see how sometimes the cuddliest of characters can be the most diabolical. This is Gamer K, logging out.